Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Never Seen It. This is a podcast where we watch movies that we haven't seen yet. My name is Trent. I'm sitting here with Betsy as per usual.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Ditto. Today we're going to be kicking off a brand new series because, Betsy, it is a brand new month. This is November of 2024, and you know what that means. Thanksgiving. And this month, we are giving thanks to, this is a stretch, I know, we're giving thanks to a director this time. Normally, once a year, we decide, hey, we're going to cover 4 or so movies from a specific actor throughout their career. But instead of doing that this year, we're going to be covering 4 movies from a certain director, that one being Ridley Scott.
He has a brand new movie coming out this month, a sequel to a little movie he made 20-some years ago.
Little known movie, which we have actually covered for this show before.
Yes, so we
2 years ago.
We did Gladiator. Spoiler alert, guys. We're probably not going to be working Gladiator 2 into this simply because ever since we watched Gladiator 2 years ago, Trent has not seen it again.
No.
And Ridley Scott has so many movies that we found plenty to watch without covering his brand new one.
Yes, and of course, if Gladiator 2 does get nominated for Best Picture for the next Oscar season, obviously we will cover that one at the time.
We'll see it then.
We'll see. But for this one, we're going to start off with a movie that neither of us have seen. Back in 2001, he put out a little movie called Black Hawk Down. Now, I remember we were both in high school at the time, and I remember when I actually heard movie titles in the ether because I didn't really pay that much attention. If I heard about a movie, that means it was fucking big, and this is no different. So, Black Hawk Down, we haven't seen it. What do you know about it?
Josh Hartnett!
Yeah, we're going to do another Josh Hartnett movie.
Trent, I am bound and determined to make Josh Hartnett fall stick. I want it to be a thing because he kind of led off the fall, late summer, early fall with Trap. Then we just watched 30 Days of Night.
Yep, and then last year he was a big part of Oppenheimer.
Yeah, and now we're doing another one. So Josh Hartnett fall. Come on, guys.
There you go.
Make this happen with me.
Good old Midwestern boy getting on this podcast. So, again, going back to the movie, what do you know about it besides him?
So Josh Hartnett, I think, is the lead in this.
He is.
It is a military movie, and I think it's about a downed helicopter. But I could not tell you which war this is, if this is a contemporary movie, if this is like it's downed behind enemy lines and it's a fight for survival.
So this is a fairly modern tale. It is based on a real story, and it is, I believe, a bunch of U.S. military special forces in a Black Hawk helicopter that goes down in Somalia. So this occurred in the early 90s, I believe. So besides all what I just said here, I don't really know anything else about the movie other than the fact that it's a huge sausage fest. There are no women in this movie that I'm aware of.
This is going to be a hyper-masculine war-type movie.
Yes.
But through the lens of Ridley Scott, who, we watched Thelma and Louise earlier this year. We know he's capable of having a very different approach. So he might find ways to not make this super just because it's a bunch of dudes. It's a war movie.
Yeah.
He can find the heart of it.
The Hartnett, if you will.
The Hartnett, if you will.
I know Ewan McGregor is also in this movie, or as we call him, Ewan McGregor. Wow, that is such an inside joke. It is not even worth covering here. But that's something for just me and Betsy. Oh God. Anyway, besides him, I don't know anybody else. Do you know anything else about this movie?
I don't know who else is in this. I don't know the plot. I've heard it's pretty good. I've just never watched it. So today is the day.
That's the thing. I don't even know why it's good. Is it like a huge epic? Is it like a very small thing where they're all just fighting for survival in a very small box?
Because Ridley Scott is a hell of a director, and when he hits hard.
It could be huge. It could be very tiny. I have no idea. So that's why we're doing it. That's why we're covering Ridley Scott. We need to find out what this guy's all about. So with that, we're going to go and watch Black Hawk Down from 2001. We'll be right back. And that was Black Hawk Down. Betsy, how are you feeling after that one?
That movie is relentless.
That's one word for it, yeah.
I was not expecting basically real time for like a third of the movie.
Yeah, the middle section here basically is in real time, like them going back and forth between home base and the air and the ground and the guys who are hole up, and it's
And
it's
the
just
mission as it unfolds.
yeah.
Yeah, what a shit show of a mission this ended up being.
Yeah.
But the movie, it's very, very good. But it's
wow.
intense. Holy shit.
I can see why this got so many accolades at the time, because I don't know of another movie of the era that you can say is any better than this. I would even say this is hands down better than Saving Private Ryan. In my opinion, I watched that movie last year and I was not that impressed with it. I'm very impressed with this one.
Yeah, Ridley Scott has himself said this is like the movie he is the most proud of, or one of them.
For good reason.
And I get it. The whole point of us doing this series is to talk about Ridley Scott as a director. And Jesus, are we starting with a bang? Holy cow.
And you know, think about this. This came out in 2001, and I would even say that this movie transcends any other movie of the era that depicts war scenes, and maybe is the basis for, you know, war movies going forward, because you have all of these shots set up, you have all of these special effects going off all at the same time, you have real people who did real military training. And, you know, not that that's anything special, but everything put together here is just so impressive. And I'm giving a little bit more to this movie because it came out in 2001, and I've seen so many other movies since then, but I feel like they are all cribbing from Black Hawk Down.
Well, I was kind of wondering when I saw, okay, this came out in 2001. It technically came out in 2002 to the wide audiences, but it did get released. So it actually has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that 9/11 happened. You know, there were a lot of war movies that came out post 9/11.
Yeah.
But this movie would have already been in production. This movie was already in the can.
Basically in the can, yeah, just waiting for the premiere.
Just waiting for the premiere. But because it has nothing to do with that, it's not in any way like colored by that. This movie was made purely before we as a society in America had really strong feelings about what the military was and how they were in 2001, 2002.
Yeah, and in the aftermath of 9/11, everybody started to be very, you know, hoorah about military and let's kick some ass.
America, fuck yeah.
We've already covered that movie, Betsy. And kind of hearkening back to another movie that came out in 2002, a movie that they kind of edited the ending for, Gangs of New York, was edited to include extra homages and tributes to the Twin Towers in New York City at the very end of it. Number one, they didn't have enough time to do that to this one, but I think if they did, it would have completely tainted it, in my mind anyway.
Yeah, this is not of that time. The fact that this movie, it takes place in 1993, 92, 93.
Because it is based on real events that, you know, people of the time would have definitely remembered hearing about.
I didn't, but I was also 7 when this was happening.
Yeah,
7 and 8.
But you do remember hearing a lot about Somalia.
No.
I absolutely do.
I do not. I remember being in like kindergarten and the Gulf War, and then there's sort of a large gap called my childhood, and then nothing until 9/11, and then everything we got involved in there.
Okay, but I will say I heard the word Somalia a whole lot. I heard the word Rwanda a whole lot. Just because I watched the evening news with my parents every night, I heard about all this stuff. Now, did I know all the details? Did I understand the background of everything? Of course not. But this part of the world was basically always in the back of everybody's mind, because that's where the U.S. military was sending soldiers to go and fight and do this, basically. Fight against warlords and make sure that people were getting aid. But one thing here that I definitely want to talk about is another movie that I think Betsy and I are going to eventually cover for our other show on our Patreon, the Never Seen It Movie Club. That movie being Lord of War, which is a kind of a parallel movie to this entire thing, which almost causes it to happen. The background on Lord of War is this gun runner from America after the fall of the Soviet Union basically got a hold of so much just armaments, guns, ammunition, tanks, all the shit that you see that the Somalis are using for weapons are basically all supplied by just a couple of gun runners. And this was the time when those guys made so much fucking money because there was such a demand for weaponry in this part of the world. And it just got transferred from the Soviet Union over to these other people.
Yeah, there was a vacuum trend.
Yeah.
The Soviet Union had a large, expansive thumb down on a lot of people.
That, and they were gearing up for a war with America that never happened. So they have all of this weaponry just sitting in warehouses all across Russia.
Stockpiled.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so people bought it up and sold it to willing buyers.
And they bought it by the fucking pound. Literally, they bought it by the pound. Anyway, go and watch Lord of War. Eventually, we're going to cover it for our other show. But I just kept thinking about that movie and its effect on this particular conflict. It's crazy.
See, and I haven't seen that movie nearly as many times as you have to get that correlation, but I understand what you're saying, why you were thinking about it. Because, yeah, these Americans, what I was thinking about was we like to get ourselves involved. We just get involved. And we shouldn't be involved. And it's, more meat for the grinder, more meat for the grinder. That's what this made me think of. Like, I feel like I don't know if it's anti-war or it's just a movie that depicts a really, really bad situation, but it makes me feel anti-war because I'm looking at 2.5 hours of people getting blown to shit for literally no reason.
It is the hubris of the American military in the 90s because basically the last big military thing that we did as a country was the Gulf War, and it was like a weekend. It barely lasted at all, and it was just to kick Iraq out of Kuwait. That's all. And prior to that was Vietnam. So there was a whole big swath of time here where the military was basically doing nothing. So we've got all these soldiers, we got all these weapons, we got training out the ass. We can go in and wreck shop. We're out of there in a half hour. It's like it's nothing. But they underestimated the volume of opposition that they were going to have going in here, and the fact that basically the entire town was going to pick up arms and shoot at these guys.
And the whole mission, they're like trying to get key players who can get them to this general who is running all of this nonsense in the country, causing the chaos. So they're just trying to find other people who can get to him. So they're going to do this raid and they're going to pick up everybody in this building because they're pretty sure there are important figures there.
Yeah.
We don't know who they are. I don't even think they're sure that those people exist in this capacity.
No, they get a tip basically that there's this meeting happening in a building. We don't even know what building. And they have a guy on the ground who seems to know something about it, and he helps point out where the building is. And then they go in, guns blazing with helicopters and Humvees and people on the ground. It's a big fucking invading army. But if all you're doing is going in to get these people out, wouldn't you think that you would have a strategy to get out?
An exit strategy, Trent?
Wouldn't you think that, okay, well, have you seen these people put up barriers in the past? Well, if so, maybe you should get some kind of other equipment in there to tear down these barriers so that you don't have to go, 15 miles out of your way to go 5 blocks.
Trent, clearly I live in the future, away from 1992 and 1993 when this stuff was happening, because I have found that the U.S. military does not really work in exit strategies in my lifetime. That's really interesting that you were sitting there just now saying, we were in Vietnam and then we did fuck all, and then the military went to the Gulf War because they were bored, basically. And then for us, we've been at fucking war for 30 years. From where we're sitting, you and I, we know that this is the time that basically kicked off the modern era of the war machine, the military being huge and overly funded and just going everywhere that we don't belong.
Yeah.
So I have such a different perspective watching this movie in 2024 than when it came out in 2001. Even though in 2001, the timing worked out that, yeah, people were thinking about it, but I think our perspective, I have the hindsight is what I have.
Of course. But even thinking prior to 2001, one other thing that I was reading about this entire timeline is this happened in 93, and all these images and the news from this battle kept coming back to America, and there was footage of all of this stuff and like American soldiers' bodies being dragged through the streets. People were outraged by our failure in this mission, and there was enough public pressure against our incursion in Somalia that 2 weeks after this battle, Clinton, the president at the time, pulled everybody out of there, saying, we're no longer going to be doing whatever it is that we're trying to be doing in Somalia. You guys can take care of your fucking selves. Like, leave it to the UN, basically.
Yeah, with some of the very little dialogue that is like plot related to move this story along. They have a scene near the beginning where they pick up this guy who's like, again, an important figure, and he tells them, this is a civil war. It is between us and only us.
Yeah.
And you guys shouldn't be here. And he says that at the beginning before any of this shit goes down. And it's just like, yeah, why are we here? What are we doing? Like, they'd show them bringing the U.S. aid in where they've got a truck full of food and they're gonna distribute it. And somebody with a gun starts like firing on civilians, unarmed civilians.
Yeah.
And the military is up in the helicopter and they're told, don't intervene. We are not here for that. So there's this weird like back and forth counterintuition happening where they're not supposed to get involved, but then they get like deeply, deeply involved.
Yeah, and the people who are firing on the crowd going after the food, those people are directed by the fucking warlord or whoever, I don't remember his name. They're there to take the aid, take the food for themselves and do with it what they will.
And keep the rest of the country starving and helpless, basically.
Exactly. And they say in that scene, yes, you do not have orders to help anybody out. If you do, then you are going to pull the U.S. further into there that we do not want to be. And going back to what I was saying about the sentiment of the U.S. and people in general, this is apparently blamed for the U.S. not intervening in the Rwandan genocide that happened just a little bit after. That happened soon after the Somalia incident.
We stayed out of that.
Yeah, and maybe we shouldn't have. I mean,
I know it's like an absolute double-edged sword that I'm saying, you know, we shouldn't get involved. Sometimes we need to get involved. I get it. But we need to have a fucking plan. It doesn't seem like anyone in this movie had much of a plan.
And really what it is us not going it alone and just being the world's police.
We need to have more people involved, like all of the UN, multiple countries should be getting involved, because if like, say, 8 countries simultaneously went into Somalia, then yes, you would have hit your 2-week timeline that you were estimating this would take to resolve. Instead, 6 weeks in is when this movie takes place, and then 3 years later was when it finally got resolved.
Yeah, and who the hell knows what would have happened if we were to have gotten more involved in some of these conflicts later if 9/11 didn't happen with, you know, a different president and different, all sorts of different things that
so many dominoes
that fell down after their day. But I think this is a good time to go to a break. Let's kind of regroup here, and we'll talk about the movie a little bit more right after this word from our sponsor.
Critics everywhere are raving about patreon.com/neverseenitpod. Superfan Stephanie says, all this for $5 a month? Incredible. Phineas Butterfield of the New England Journal of Medicine calls it available content. Betsy's grandma says, what's a podcast? Don't miss your chance to experience this phenomenon. Join today.
So Betsy, going into this movie, I remembered hearing that the cast of the movie was just unreal. I remember hearing about that from other people after the fact, not at the time, because at the time, none of these people were really known all that well.
No, I think in 2001 and 2002, this is a somewhat unremarkable cast. But when you're sitting here 22 years later, it's just like every time someone new appeared on screen, we went, holy shit, what? Who? How? Why?
Hey, that guy. Hey, that guy.
So I'm just gonna rapid fire them off because there's so many and they're not in the movie very long. So we mentioned Josh Hartnett. We knew that one. You also mentioned Ewan McGregor. Okay, Ewan McGregor, 2001, he's come off one Star Wars movie. So he's getting known. We'll call that he's semi-famous at this point.
In America, anyway.
In America. Eric Bana, this is his first American movie. This is pre-Hulk, which he did, I think, like 2 years later.
Not even. It was just after this.
Yeah, so Eric Bana, new to America. Jeremy Piven, again, pretty well known in his circle, but not really a household name at this time.
Yeah, definitely not. And he's not in the movie all that much.
No. But the ones that surprised me were Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who plays Jaime Lannister in Game of Thrones. This is the earliest thing I have seen him in.
By a mile. And yeah, he looks young, but
He looks the same.
He pretty much looks the same.
Orlando Bloom. This is the same year that the first Lord of the Rings came out. It actually came out the same month. So people probably saw Lord of the Rings before they saw this movie because it wasn't open for wide release until 2002.
Right.
Jason Isaacs, who would have been very soon to be in the Harry Potter franchise, but this is before then. So unless you were a Brit, you probably did not know who he was. Our returning champion, once again, Tom Sizemore.
Hell yeah. I knew that Tom Sizemore did have a role in this and that he was a fucking badass in this.
So good.
Yes.
The one scene wonder, pre-Mr. Incredible, Ioan Gruffudd is in this movie.
Yeah, for like a half a second, he has a seizure and then he's gone.
But it's basically setting up why Josh Hartnett is in his position because he took over for him.
I suppose.
So there is a reason for it. Hugh Dancy, another Brit that you don't recognize, but I definitely have seen in some things. Ewan Bremner, who was in Train Spotting, but you recognized him from Snatch, which came out a year before this.
Right.
And itty bitty baby Tom Hardy. I lost my shit when that skinny little boy showed up on the screen. And yeah, that's just the ones that I definitely know were there. And then later, Ty Burrell shows up.
Ty Burrell is one of the medics that shows up in the first downed helicopter, and he's like joking around saying, hey, I'm going to make you fucking margaritas without the salt when we get back.
So in 2001, so many of these people were just guys trying to get work. Guys almost there. Like Ewan Gruffudd was in Titanic, but again, one scene. Is there anyone an eye about that?
Sure, but also think about the movie I mentioned before, Saving Private Ryan. That is another fucking murderer's row of unknown actors that became huge stars later.
And I give that to people like Ridley Scott, who's just like, you're a good actor. You're a good actor. I like your face. I like your energy.
Who can we get?
I want these people in my group going on the screen.
Yeah, these people are the only actors available for this month of shooting, and then we're done.
Oh, I bet it was more than a month.
I'm sure.
This is an insanely complicated production. Rightly so, Ridley Scott got nominated for an Oscar for this movie. He got nominated for Best Director, and his cinematographer got nominated.
Deserved.
It did win too, as a lot of war movies do. It won editing and sound.
Sure.
But yeah, the cast is bonkers. It is absolutely ridiculous. And I was just waiting for them all to get bumped off because the second things started going badly, I'm like, how long until they all die? And it means more now because I know who these people are. You know, there's multiple Oscar nominees in this lineup. There's people who have gone on to these huge franchises and huge careers. And I'm just like, is Tom Hardy gonna die? Don't kill Tom Hardy.
Yeah, you would expect all the youngins to get it. Like Orlando Bloom is the first casualty out of the entire thing because he falls out of the helicopter.
Yeah, and that should be their first omen that this is a bad idea. This whole mission is fucked because seconds in, he falls out of the sky and basically, I don't know if he died. They got him out of there.
Yeah.
He probably broke his back or some crap. He was definitely very, very injured.
Yes.
And then it just goes downhill from there. And there is some visceral, gnarly stuff that happens in this
injuries,
movie.
yeah. We get people being shot out of the sky in their helicopters and they crash and they get trapped. And that's pretty much the rest of the movie is other people trying to rescue the people in the helicopters who go down. But in the interim, all these people start getting fucked up. We got a guy who gets blown in half basically through an RPG shell.
We get a guy who gets shot by a missile, but it doesn't go off.
Well, no, it doesn't even go through his body. It gets stuck in his body cavity. And it's basically a live shell that did not go off. That is probably one of the more gnarly things in the entire thing. But earlier on, we get some guy who got shot in the hand that was holding his rifle. He goes and picks up the rifle again, but then he looks at his hand and is missing all of his fingers.
Except one is sort of hanging there.
Yeah.
Then you get people like a dude gets shot in the leg and it hit an artery and they have to go fishing in there to try to save him. And it's just like, oh my God.
And then you have to basically hold open the wound.
I'm so sorry.
God.
I'm so sorry if we didn't warn you we were going to talk about this because
it's a war movie. We're not going to make excuses.
But still, it was intense. And it just starts. And the more people that keep going down, like they keep trying to go in there and rescue people. And going in to rescue people ends up getting more people injured and killed.
Yes.
Like the whole movie is, Black Hawk Down, go to the site, go to the crash site, get those guys. And in the process of doing it, 10 guys get shot. And they're already dead. Like everybody there is dead. But their policy is no man left behind. And I get it. I understand. But at the same time, that decision, that commitment to not leaving anybody behind is getting more people killed than if you had just tried to come up with another solution.
And the reason why that is failing so poorly is because they just don't have the superiority on the battlefield, as it were. If they had an overwhelming force going in there with fucking tanks and huge divisions of army soldiers and whatever else, you would have been able to take the entire city in the half hour that you thought that you were going to get out of there with. But because you're doing this with a splinter force and trying to get in and out very, very quickly, and you think that it's just going to go fine, they weren't prepared to have to deal with all this stuff. They weren't prepared for the consequences of this policy of no soldier being left behind, alive or dead.
And they're so grossly outnumbered. They know this is the hot spot. This is the worst of the places that they could be in.
This is where everybody gets their guns and shit.
Yeah, they show it too. Like Eric Bana's on the ground doing reconnaissance work.
Yeah.
And they just have, the market. The market is full of guns and bullets and grenades and all the shit that they've picked up either from dead soldiers or bought on the black market. And they're just out in the open selling it. And everybody is involved in this war. And the insurgent Americans are not welcome here. So the second they actually manage to get someone down, someone else runs up and picks up that weapon and starts taking out Americans, or at least trying.
Totally.
And that is this whole movie.
There's
Once
even a
it
scene.
starts,
There's a scene at the end where there's a woman kind of running towards the warlords, and Josh Hartnett is yelling at her, saying, "Don't go there, don't go there." But in reality, she's going over to pick up a rifle to turn it back on him.
No, I think you're misinterpreting that. I think they knew what she was going to do, and they were really hoping that she wasn't.
Well, they were hoping that she wouldn't, because then they would have to shoot her.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They were hoping that she was just a woman screaming who doesn't belong there. But unfortunately, she was also out to shoot them.
Yeah.
So yeah, the movie begins, and it is just real-time chaos and carnage for like a full hour. And I was not expecting it to be that intense for a full hour.
I made sure to clock the timing here. We did not actually get the go order until 35 minutes into the movie. The first 35 minutes, setting everything up. This is where they are. This is what the mission is. these are the people, these are the stakes, and you're going to get a little bit of a background of our main actors here. But once the go order is given, holy shit, this is fucking cinema. When all of the choppers are flying through the air over the city, when all the soldiers on the ground are approaching everything, when all the Humvees are driving in the city, that whole sequence is one of the best things I've seen this entire year. Just them going there. It looked incredible.
And you're also countering it with, they know you're coming. And
Yes.
they're getting ready too. Like you cannot keep it a fucking secret. You decided to go in the middle of the day.
Yeah, they've got
3:30 in the afternoon.
They got spotters out there calling back, telling people the Americans are coming, start putting up the barricades. And by barricades, I mean lighting tires on fire and putting burned out cars in the way.
And everybody has a gun. Everybody.
Sure.
You are so outnumbered and so underprepared for this situation that, yeah, it just, once it started, it didn't stop. It didn't stop. It wasn't until maybe half an hour from the end of the movie that we finally got maybe 5 minutes to breathe.
We got a breath. As soon as Tom Sizemore got back with that group of guys, I think that's the first time that they go to the stadium where they have this like military triage already set up over there. That is pretty much the only time that you have as an audience to have a breather as well. And then we go back and finally, they're getting other sources of soldiers and equipment and trucks and everything else to get everybody out.
Because they didn't bother telling the other teammates, hey, this is the game plan.
Again, fucking hubris.
Yeah, we don't need anybody else. We're Americans, and we're going to get it done in half an hour.
We don't need anybody getting in our way. We got this. We're American kick-ass.
Which is instead why it took, 14 hours with limited supplies and 19 American soldiers dead and God knows how many wounded.
Mm-hmm. And 1,000 Somalis killed.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
And that's the one thing that just to go back into the world a little bit here, the one thing that you don't really think about when it comes to big armies going after little countries is that the civilian death is unconscionable, which is why they never talk about it. They only talk about when your country's soldiers get killed or injured. You don't think that American citizens don't actually care when we're killing other citizens of other countries.
Watching this movie, at the end they said the death toll was 19, and honestly I said, I thought that was a lot higher. For the way that the Americans were getting kind of fucked up, I thought a lot more people died in this movie.
Yeah, seemed low.
And then they just casually throw in at the end, oh, by the way, 1,000 Somalis died. That seems to be a really one-sided affair for the Americans who, yes, they had a really bad day, but I think the locals had a lot worse day than you did.
Yeah, and just think about where they're coming from here. These are outsiders coming in to do something that they didn't ask them to do. No one asked the Americans to come in there and take care of their shit. That's their responsibility, goddammit. And we're not here to really get into a political discussion, but the idea of American interventionism kind of has gone the way of the dodo, especially after a battle like this and all the shit that we got into in Iraq and Afghanistan. But that is a completely different topic.
But it's all related. It's all the same thing where I watch these movies and this is an expression of Ridley Scott saying, okay, I'm going to interpret the script written by this guy, and this is what he wrote, and this is the visual interpretation of something that really happened. How much of it was true? A lot of it. I'm sure not everything in this movie happened, but when you're making a movie like this, they tend to be more grounded in reality than a lot of movies based on actual events.
And you have to take it with a grain of salt that Ridley Scott and the movie production company got full cooperation from the U.S. military.
Yes. But I said it earlier, I almost feel like this is an anti-war movie. It makes me really upset about what happened to this day and the fact that we just keep finding ways to do it again and worse.
It's an anti-interventionalist movie. That's the core of it. Basically, outside militaries should not get involved in other countries' wars. Period. End of story.
And of course, at the same time, me saying it's anti-military, it almost isn't, because there's a thing at the end where after they somehow miraculously make it through this day, the few that are still left standing, not injured, they're gearing up to go back out there and do it again because they're still soldiers who did not make it out. They got to go back and get them.
Dead or alive, yeah.
And Eric Bana is saying, I'm going back out there, and people back home, they don't understand. I'm not like some war nut. I'm not some like junkie for this.
But it's the brotherhood thing.
It's about the guys standing next to you.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. So it's like taking a really pro-military stance for him.
It's a pro-soldier stance.
A pro-soldier stance, yeah. So it's kind of both things at once, where I'm trying to understand, what are you trying to say with this movie? Are you trying to say this is bad? Are you trying to say it can be good? Like, it's an interesting thing to throw in at the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's also depicting this is what we are subjecting our soldiers to for the sake of this other group of people, for the sake of another country, for the sake of another military. Why would we do that is really the question.
Mm-hmm.
And make you reevaluate the fact that this is not an automatic thing. Wars are fought with people. And of course, this is 1993. It's before we had all this drone technology where we don't have to put real soldiers in harm's way. Which, is that any better? I have no idea. But we're not talking about our drone strategy right now.
I'm not a military strategist, but I have to imagine it's a little more effective than just blindly sending in man after man after man, wave after wave of human beings to make the situation worse. Like, literally, there are guys in this movie up in the helicopter, and they're looking down and they're like, please let us go in. We want to do our jobs. We want to help. But they know that they're going to get slaughtered, basically.
Yeah.
And the general says, put them on the radio. I want to talk to them. And I want to make sure that they really understand what they are asking to do. And of course, they go down there. They also die. If they had stayed in the helicopter, they probably would have survived. Maybe. I don't know, because they were shooting down helicopters left and right, too.
Yeah. And I'm sure incidents like this are a big reason why we put so much of our efforts and technology into drones, because the American public cannot stomach seeing American soldiers die over and over again. So let's put our efforts into drone technology so that we don't have to risk that anymore.
This is one area I fully support, the technology of robots taking over.
Well, again, we don't need to go down that road, Betsy. Not
saying.
at all. Anyway, I don't know where else we need to go here as far as the movie itself. There are some moments here that I wanted to point out. The one that made me chuckle, there's not a lot of chuckling moments in this movie, is the Ewan McGregor character is a desk jockey. He got this position because he knows how to type. And in 93, it is an odd thing for a guy to know how to type very well.
I think it's just also commentary on how the military works in general. Like, I'm sure I have told you this story. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast before. My grandfather was in Korea, and he basically got off of the plane, got off of the boat. They lined them up, and they said, does anybody here know shorthand? And my grandpa had gone to like a secretarial course, and he knew shorthand. Mm-hmm. So his hand went up and like one other person's hand. They got pulled out of the line, shoved in an office, and they got to spend their entire military career playing golf, basically.
Yeah, and didn't you also mention that entire troop that did not put their hand up, they ended up going to war, and most of them died.
Yeah, they all got fucked up.
Yeah.
And so my grandpa, in effect, was saved by knowing shorthand, which is a good thing for me, because my mom wasn't alive yet. He still had to come back from Korea before she ever showed up. And if she wasn't here, then I wouldn't be here. So moral of the story, I'm here because of shorthand. I don't know.
There you go.
But that's definitely a thing. These are guys that have kind of this macho attitude. The people who sign up for the military, they are, I want to fight, I want to shoot guns. I want to be a tough guy.
I want to participate.
Yeah,
I don't want to
there's-
just be this pussy who is back at a desk somewhere.
There's a lot of bravado, a lot of macho attitude, a lot of testosterone. Those guys don't tend to be the ones who are going to sit at a computer all day.
Right.
You know, there is a little cross section that exists, but those are the ones that are the Ewan McGregors of the world.
Yeah.
That get pulled in. And he even has that attitude. He says, I'm supposed to be out there. I'm supposed to go on these missions, but I have a particular set of skills that makes me indispensable.
But then when he does get pulled out, he gets nervous. He's like, oh, I have to back up what I just said here.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. He's been bitching the whole time about how he never gets to go out. But in reality, he's kind of been okay with never having to go out there.
Of course, but then when he actually gets out onto the battlefield, stuff starts going off, things are blowing up around him, and he literally says, oh, fuck this. And he runs away.
He narrowly escapes a missile launcher
Yeah.
going past his head. He gets blown up
A couple of times.
a couple of times. Like, he is within inches of being killed. And he's just like, I'm still alive. Get me the fuck out of here. So you've got that character. And then at the very opposite end of the spectrum, you touched on it, is Tom Sizemore. He is cool as a fucking cucumber this whole movie. And his body language is so relaxed.
It's casual.
It's very casual. His arms are down. He doesn't have a weapon in his hands. He's just like peering and there's stuff like flying past and he's just like, okay, here we go. Let's go.
At the end of the movie, he is casually walking up to this other group of people who has been holed up for the entire length of the movie. And he's just strolling up there like it's a Sunday
shaking
afternoon.
hands. Hey, I heard you needed a rescue party. We're here. Shake my hand.
It's exactly that
And
scene.
there's crap blowing up behind him, and he's so unfazed by it. Like, this is a guy that has been through this so many times. This is fucking nothing to him.
When him in the fucking Humvee, when shit blows up in front of the driver and the glass fucking blinds him, and he's having to navigate the driver by voice, telling him, turn left here, turn right there. He can't see shit.
But even before that, he says, just keep your foot on the gas, and he grabs the wheel and starts steering it.
Yeah.
You know, he gets shot up. The guy in the next truck gets shot up, and he says, drive. I can't drive. I've been shot. We've all been shot.
Everybody's shot.
Just keep
You're
going.
not special.
No. So he is like the only one out of everybody in this movie that is just keep going. Nothing affects this man. He got grazed in the neck. He almost like got his jugular shot.
Millimeters away from your jugular getting shot out.
And he's gearing up to go back out there. He goes back, he regroups, he packs some more shit, and he comes back out and saves the fucking day. It's like, wow. And it still takes another like 10 hours from the time he shows up for them to actually get out of that place.
Well, I don't think I had anything else to talk about, Betsy. Did you have anything?
No, just to reiterate, this is a grueling, visceral, sweaty movie.
Oh my God, people sweat so much.
I mean, they're in fucking Africa. Yeah, and it's by the water too.
Right.
And yeah, for it being 2.5 hours, I expected it to be a slog. I really did, because I was like, oh God, another 2.5 hour movie. But no, even the first 30 minutes, they just kind of get started. They cook through a lot of information. Like, it's like too much information at the beginning where they're basically explaining the entire situation in Somalia with several on-screen text things. I'm like, I can't read this much. This is so much information. But I get it. It's just really setting up. If you have no idea what this story is about, here's what you need to know. Somalia is in a civil war, and these are the things that happened leading up to this. And the military intervened, and this is how long we said it would take. And this is now six weeks in when we thought it would take 2 weeks. And it's just like, okay, that's a lot of information. I'm being inundated. And then we just start meeting all these people, and we see all of the calm before the storm. But once it starts, it does not stop until the movie is over, basically.
Basically, yeah.
And I was enjoying it. But I was really surprised by the pace of this. I did not know that this was like a one-day movie.
No, and I really did not know the structure of the movie. I honestly thought that it was a single helicopter. I did not know that this was a big operation with a huge fucking troop of people.
Yeah, I figured it's like 4 guys on a helicopter behind enemy lines, and they're going to send in the rescue squad, and it's a tale of survival. Nope.
That's honestly what I thought this was. It was going to be a tale of survival. Everybody in a helicopter survives, and they're just hole up somewhere in a building or in the helicopter, the downed helicopter, and they're fighting people off, and there's a rescue squad. That's honestly what I thought this movie was. But no, it is a lot bigger than that.
I'm pleasantly surprised, though. Like, I really definitely enjoyed this.
Yeah. All right, I think that's going to do it for Black Hawk Down. One movie out of the Ridley Scott series of movies. We haven't thought of a clever name for the series yet. We might not. I don't know. Sometimes it just comes over us. But we would love to hear from you guys. Did you see this movie in 2001, 2002, whenever it came out? Do you remember the fervor around it at the time? Are you a Ridley Scott fan? What's your favorite Ridley Scott movie? Email us neverseenitpod@gmail.com. We received an email and a comment about one of our movies that we covered in Never Scream It, about Late Night with the Devil. Betsy, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, we got a message on Instagram from our longtime listener, Blake. He sent us a message saying, watched this a couple of months ago and thought it was a lot of fun. Wasn't a huge fan of the lead performance, but it didn't detract from my enjoyment of the film. Really fun how the movie builds its scares and how it adds to each piece of the puzzle as it progresses. If you guys enjoyed this, he wrote this before he listened to the episode, I highly recommend checking out Ghost Watch from 1992, which is sort of the genesis of this kind of movie. Easily one of the creepiest movies I've ever seen. Watch at home, lights out, volume up. You won't sleep after. No, I'm not interested in that. I'm so sorry. He continues, then read the story about how the movie brought the country of England to its knees on Halloween night. Interesting. You've piqued my curiosity with that statement, but if it's a movie that's gonna make me not sleep, that is the kind of horror movie I am not drawn to, which is why I have repeatedly said this is not my favorite genre. I'm willing to try things, but I did once watch a scary movie in the dark by myself, alone in my apartment, and I had a really hard time sleeping after that, so it's just not my thing.
No, and I think because of what we do when we watch movies we haven't seen before, we're going to do an episode about it. It's just the rule. So the very fact that we are, taking notes and paying special attention to things in the movie and not just letting it wash over us, we watch movies very differently. So I don't think a movie like that would really do that to us, but hey, there's a first time for everything. But thanks, Blake, for sending that in. We also received an email from our super fan, Stephanie, of course, about Late Night with the Devil. She begins, of course, Lordy, Lordy, look who's 40. Happy birthday, Trent.
That's you.
That's me. Thank you. Thank you? Yeah, thank you. A full disclosure, I tried to watch this last night in a not sober state of mind. I fell asleep and woke up during Lily letting the demon come out. Pretty freaky.
That would be a terrible time to wake up if you hadn't been paying attention to the movie.
If you didn't get the lead up to it, yeah.
I think she'd seen it before, though.
I don't know.
I didn't get the context in this email, but
maybe it's brand new, so maybe not.
Maybe.
Anyway, so this afternoon, I watched the whole thing again. It was incredibly well executed, and I really appreciated the filmmaking. Very smart and intricate details. It is well acted, and everything looks so good. The cast was also really good. That main actor was fantastic and very charming. Not classically handsome like Betsy said, but charming more than makes up for crap like that. Indeed. And here is Stephanie listing the rest of the movies that she's been up to up until when she watched this one. October 11th, Under Wraps. These are fun family ones. 13th, Fear Street, 1978. 14th, Tucker and Dale versus Eva, which, by the way, we covered that one for...
We did!
I think it wasn't even for Never Scream It. We had a listener pay us to watch that movie.
It was during the time of Never Scream It, but it was the first year where we didn't call it Never Scream It.
That's true. Anyway, we did cover that movie, by the way. The 15th, Insidious, The Red Door, super disappointing. The 16th, Doom, the video game adaptation Doom.
Which I have heard is also super
She
disappointing.
says, woof, this sucked. The 17th, The Birds. She says, I watched this when I was really young and liked it. On this rewatch, I felt like it was crazy slow. That's an old movie. That's what they do. The 18th, Under Wraps 2. The 19th, An American Werewolf in Paris. She says, this was one that my husband watched as a teen, but I had never screamed it.
Haha, I see what she did there.
It was pretty bad. 20th, Fear Street 1666. 21st, Hocus Pocus. The 22nd and 23rd, Fall of the House of Usher, which I think is it's a TV show or a limited series, right?
I think so.
Yeah. And the 24th, Late Night with the Devil. Love you guys from Superfan Stephanie. Well, thank you very much, Stephanie, for keeping us abreast of all of your goings on in your spooky month of watching.
I'm sure we're going to get one more because we have to know what she did the rest of the month of October.
We got to hear about Carrie, too.
I'm sure she'll have something to say. I'm sure some other people will have something to say, but we're recording this a little in advance.
It's
so we have to wait a little while.
This is how the sausage is made, everybody. We got to get ahead of things. But anyway, email us, neverseenitpod@gmail.com. You can send your thoughts to any of our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, whatever you want to do, we're out there. Of course, I've mentioned it a couple of times. We also have a Patreon where we watch other movies that we either have or haven't seen. There's 4 main movie shows over there, plus a couple of other shows that we just put up some fun stuff.
We also just launched a new segment that we'll probably be bringing back in the future.
Yeah, it is called Second Chance Cinema, where Betsy and I will sit down and rewatch a movie that we have seen, but either one of us or neither of us really were feeling the first time we watched it.
Maybe didn't like it too much.
Yeah, maybe disliked it and maybe want to give it another chance.
Yeah. Trying to understand, was that just me? Was I just having a bad day?
Yeah, so go check that out. Patreon.com/neverseenitpod. All right, I think that's going to do it for Black Hawk Down. Ridley Scott, week 1 in the books. But we're not stopping there, Betsy. November is all Ridley Scott. What are we doing next week?
We're going to be staying in the aughts. It may even chronologically, I'd have to go fact check this, be the movie he did after Black Hawk Down, but I guess we're going to go and check that and see. We're going to be watching Matchstick Men.
A movie that I know the title of, but I never really knew anything about until I watched a trailer before we selected it. So come back for week 2 of Ridley Scott month. Until then, this has been Never Seen It. My name is Trent.
My name is Betsy.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Adios.